What's going on, everybody, and welcome to Challenge Accepted Reacts. I'm Thomas, and I'm here with Frank.
Hey everybody.
And tonight we are doing episode 2, season 2 of Loki Breaking Brad. What did you think about the episode, man?
This was a great episode for a lot of reasons. There were things I questioned about it, but overall, this show is so well done. And I kind of came away with a thought like even the parts you don't care for, even when you think the show is not doing something right, it's always done very well. Like the acting, the performances, the aesthetics, the direction's all super clear. Like everything is done so well that you have to be like, yeah, I can overlook that because my God, everything's perfect outside of that.
Yeah, you're so right about that. You're right. Because there were certain things in this episode, and first of all, I loved it. I thought it was
Yeah,
great.
agreed.
I was like, man, this is. But just that, I was like, okay, that's kind of funky. But I'm like, but everything looks beautiful. Everything's shot beautiful. Everybody's acting really well. Like, I don't know why it's quite jiving, but I almost like it in a way. It's giving me this feeling of everything everywhere all at once, where it's so kind of
Very much so.
messy. It works, but at the same time, like the quality even feels better in terms of how it's shot and the cinematography and the look of it. It feels like classic Marvel in a way, where it feels so much quality is in there, but yet it still feels a little messy, and I like it.
Yeah, and it's got a touch of HBO in my opinion too. Like the Golden HBO made a show. I can't remember what it's called, but it's based off the Golden Compass books, where the
Oh,
show,
they
yeah,
had
the
the
show was
Damons in
good.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I forgot what
but
it's
the
called.
visually is gorgeous, and so
Hmm.
I think it's the same vibe where it's like, yeah, we're just gonna make good quality stuff. By the way, at the end, we're gonna talk about the latest Marvel news. There is a lot of news going on at the Marvel Studio. We'll mention it all at the end. But let's go ahead and get into this episode. And the thing I want to start off with is we'll go chronologically on this part. Is they go into the main timeline and
They
they
go to
find,
to London, mate.
yeah, it's Hunter X5 they find, right? I can't find exactly.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay,
Hunter X5, and yeah, his name is like Brad Wolf
that's
or
right.
something. He's playing
Right.
Zaniac. Talk about a crappy Marvel encyclopedia. So right after that, I was like, okay, Zaniac. I know he's from the comics.
Mhm.
I think he was a Thor villain from the comics
Yeah.
in the original run that he popped up in. And I go to the encyclopedia, and he's not in there. I'm like, freaking Marvel Encyclopedia. Like, wait,
Yeah.
freaking, why are you leaving out characters that you're then going to put into your movie? So, come on, Marvel. I don't know when that book was published, but I'm just not happy about that.
I have
What are
two
your thoughts?
encyclopedias, one pre MCU, one post Infinity Saga,
Dude,
and it is amazing how much they've changed in between those two, and how much neither of them are any useful anymore because new shit comes out all the damn
really?
time. Yeah.
I thought the pre one, I had a pre Marvel Encyclopedia. It's back at like my parents' house.
Right.
And man, I lived off of that thing.
Oh, it's
And
awesome, but I'm just saying for like relevance today.
yeah, yeah. I'm sure
Try to
a
look up
lot has
Loki in that.
changed.
Good luck. He doesn't mention TVA. I'll tell you that much. you know.
That's probably very true. I'm sure the TVA has changed a lot. And not
Yeah.
knowing a lot about the TVA, it's really interesting how even though we know He Who Remains is behind the scenes, the TVA has its own it is its own character in a way. And
Yeah.
then we even see who's this Hunter X5 guy? All of a sudden he's
Right.
playing such a big role in this season, going toe to toe with Loki
Hmm.
and doing like mental manipulation chess games with him and Mobius. I'm like, whoa, what? How did this actor land this role? Because
Yeah.
good for him. And two, I'm like, does he have any comic basis for being this badass? Because he's kind of impressive.
So the actor's name is Raphael Cassell, and what I like about him is he's playing what Mobius I think will eventually become, because like his conversations with Mobius, his conversations with Loki, are so much like you guys are the leftovers, and it's that part that broke Hunter B15. Like Hunter B15 kind of is a broken person now compared to what she was in the first season, the first half of the first season. And he already, and X5 is broken too, but he's like trying to say like, come on, I mean, you're Loki, why are you not being Loki right now? And I think there's some of that too, like the fandom. There are Squeaks, for example, of Geek Freaks.
That's what I was gonna call
Yeah,
out. Yeah. I think
you
this
know,
answers his topic
this
on the
episode was
latest
totally for them. Yeah.
for that. Yeah,
Yeah.
Go back and listen to the Geek Freaks episode like 2 episodes ago, right?
Well, that's what X5 is calling out. He's calling out like, why are you not being Loki? And Mobius, like, what were you before this? And I think the fans are also asking that question. So it was a good way to answer that within a narrative reason. But by the way, let's step aside a little bit. What do you think Mobius is in the main timeline? I kind of feel like he's like a sales manager somewhere.
Dude, how can he not be a jet ski
There it is.
sales manager? Like, how can
Yeah.
he not? He loves jet skis so much, or
With that
sea-doos,
mustache,
or
he just seems like somebody who's like, let me tell you about our new insurance package. You know?
yeah, yeah. Oh, check out this one. We got the new engines in. Wow. You know what I mean? Like, he's definitely that guy, 100%. I can see it. But you mentioned B-15,
Mhm.
and what I see from the transition for her, just in these few short episodes from season 1 where we left her to now season 2, she's just more empathetic. She
Oh,
realizes, like, oh my God, I could have got left behind. I could have been one of those people that was pruned, and I'm here. I got to do this. But what happened to all those billions of people in my timeline? Where
yes.
where did they go? And man, when the timeline starts getting heavily pruned in this episode, and you see how sad she is about it, I'm like, damn, that hit really hard.
Yeah.
And then now jumping to X5, when he's having that conversation with Mobius and Loki, he really understands who they are at their core. I don't know how he's so good at it. Like, I almost wish he's just Mephisto. Like,
That
I'm
would be fun.
sure he's
Yeah.
not. Mephisto not
No, of
confirmed here. I don't think
course.
he's Mephisto. But if someone was like, yeah, he was Mephisto, I'd be like, okay, I get it. Because this guy has like almost otherworldly powers for reading people. So I totally see what you're saying about 100B15. I think, in preparation for this, as you know, like, I went back and I watched all season 1, which
Yeah.
wasn't a lot. I mean, it was only 6 episodes,
Right.
but you do get to see her transformation. And then there's also that part where she brings, I forgot what the agent is. It's Mobius or some other TVA agent back to Ramona's timeline, where
Hmm.
Ramona was plucked from, and her realizing that and then showing other people, like, look, we're variants. Oh, there was that part where the agent, Sylvie enchants one of the agents' mind, remember, and she
Yeah.
fights all the other TVA agents in like the Renaissance fair. And then we
Right.
go back into her memories and we see where she's from. You kind of can see like a lot of that stuff hits her really hard. There's this realization
Yeah.
like, oh, I was just a regular person. So I hear what you're saying. But I think it makes sense if you watch from season 1 to now.
Right. Okay.
Um, I do, but it's weird because like she is playing a bigger role and I'm all for it. Like, I'm stoked for her. She's a fantastic actress, like we talked about before. But
For
it's
sure.
like, oh wow, like she's really like riding hard for this all of a sudden. And it's like
Yeah.
you were like agent like number, you're literally 15, and now you're like governor of TVA reform. I don't know, right?
Here's here's the way I was kind of thinking about it when I was watching this. Like the stakes are a
Yeah,
little bit hard in this because it's hard to visualize how many people are dying. It's so many that it's hard to visualize it. But like
true.
literally 4 or 5 episodes ago in this whole story, General Dox is the hero. She just cleaned up the timeline. Like, oh great, there's like no more branches. It's all back in the timeline. Everything, like if you just rewind 4 or 5 episodes ago, General Dox
Yeah.
just saved everybody.
Yeah.
We have been told as an audience like you're shifting gears hard on this, and now the TVA. And for as an audience, we get it because we're with Loki, so we're always the outsiders. We're with Loki,
Mhm.
and but now for the TVA to also shift that much, it's might be a little jarring. I'm on board. I love this show, but I'm just saying it's
Yeah.
a little jarring. I think.
So true. And I think, yeah, you mentioned Docs already, and we see at the end that she's, opening up all these portals and people are going in and they're pruning these timelines, and you're
Yeah.
like, oh my God, it's billions of people. You're so right. That's too many people for us to fathom, like,
Yeah.
how, there's already big enough atrocities and it's not hitting millions, and it's still like so much. So beyond that is like probably incomprehensible to us.
Right.
But, do you, with Docs in particular and X5,
Hmm.
like, isn't it weird at the end of episode 1, or like in the middle of episode 1, they're in that council room and she's like
Yeah.
kissing him on the forehead and like whispering to him. And then now in this episode, he's like a star and he's like not really working with her, but he knows the plans. And then they go and stop her. It's like, are they in cahoots, Docs and X5, or are they not?
Yeah. That transition doesn't make any sense at all.
Okay, okay, good.
I
I'm glad I
cannot fathom
wasn't
where
just
he
being
went
that.
from like avid loyalist of Docs to we got to get out of this branch because I happen to know Docs is going to kill it. so why are you not helping her do it? Like, why are you here then? Like, it doesn't make any
Right.
sense.
Yeah,
And
I guess because he wanted to become a star, but we like didn't see him. We didn't even get any hint to that in the first episode, so
in
it's
the
like,
first episode, he's talking shit to Mobius about why he's so into jet skis, and it's like,
right? Yeah,
but you're into being a star in the 1930s or whatever. Like, it's so again, when it's bad, it's also absolutely nailing it. That's what I'm saying. That's the
exactly.
example.
That's
Because
that's a great example.
while this guy's not believable in a lot of ways, his conversation with Mobius and Loki in the prison cell, I think, is some of the best acting I've seen in any Disney or any Marvel series. Like
Hmm.
the conversation, he's killing it in this whole like I'm a woken cultist kind of thing, which I think that's my best analogy I could think of. And Loki's like he knows that he's really Loki, and he's like, what I'm saying, he's processing this as well, but he's also like, look, this is the situation we're in. It's super complicated. And as soon as his mom's brought up, you could see that old Loki flare up a little bit.
Hmm.
And Mobius on the other side's like, we got to get creative with this. It was just some stellar acting, and yeah, sorry, it's just was really good. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it is. You're so right. You're so right. And when you called out in the beginning, like was the first time I want to say in the show since season one
Mhm.
in the first episode where we got to see old Loki come back.
Yeah,
From even the chase scene when they're hunting down Brad X5, that was a sick chase scene. And then where we
yeah.
get to see all the Lokis pop up
Oh,
and him
the
using the
shadows.
manipulation and the shadows. Oh, I was like, that's so sick. And like seeing Loki just unleash and allowed to do whatever he needs to do
Yeah,
to make the mission happen or because he wants something to happen is awesome. But the little tinge in Tom Hiddleston's face when he mentions his mom, as you've already mentioned, oh my God, does he like that cringe where he's
yeah.
like, "Ooh, I could just tear you apart right now." Man, I love that Tom Hiddleston. It's just, ooh,
He
he's
is so
sick.
good, but I will say like it was good to see Loki part, and it's so funny. Like during that chase too, he like initiated the chase by hitting him with a little bit of magic. The whole time he's chasing him, I was like, "You better do something! Like, why are you not Lokiing out right now?" And then
Right.
it dawned on me, he's like, "Oh, he's an Asgardian. Like he's showing his ability right now is the fact that he can out chase this dude is only an Asgardian move right now. Like normally this
Hmm.
skinny dude wouldn't be able to do this." And then he went full Loki. It was great. Um, but I will say, in defense of the people out there that are not on board with this version of Loki, it does feel so separated from the other Loki. Like when he mentions his mom, is it actually kind of took me out a little bit because I was like, "Oh, that's cool," but then also was like, "Wow, that's right." The Gold Palace in Asgard, where we saw this exact character,
Yeah.
and like, boy, that is not the character we're watching. It's just they have the same lines in a way, if that makes sense to you. Like, it's so
Yeah.
weird how disjointing that is. I liked it, but also like, man, that is very separate.
That's so true. Very true. I mean, this Loki, he's already seen himself lose over and over again, and I'm
Yeah,
gonna keep going back to that episode 5 of
that's
season
true.
one where he
It's a
meets the
biggie.
other Lokis and it's like, dude, all the tricks you're trying, they don't work. We
Right.
always lose. We always mess up. Like, stop trying to do this. Stop trying to be who you think you need to be and try to be who you actually are. And I feel like we've kind of moved past that now by
Yeah,
him going against Sylvie, who became more Loki than he did.
you're right. Yeah, yeah. And even
And
X5's like, you're the villain, be a villain. And
right,
it's right because it's like, stop trying to be a hero, but it's like, Sylvie is a villain who's struggling to be a hero. And I think this version of Loki is a villain who's finding a way to use his villainous skills to be a hero. Like,
true,
yeah,
yeah. I
the
I also feel
motivation's a little off
like
too.
yeah, absolutely. I just feel like this Loki has also realized like if I just keep trying to be a villain, like the world could end. Like what am I gonna rule if the world's gone? If
I
every
just don't
timeline's
think old Loki
yeah.
would give a shit if it ended. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if he would or not. Do you think he would? Old
Yeah,
Loki, not the
because
Loki we're seeing here, but like the Loki that before transition.
so no, not Loki from Thor 1,
Right.
but Loki from Ragnarok probably would have. And I know that's old Loki and stuff, but
Right.
we see that old Loki gets to that point. So
Hmm.
why can't new Loki get to that point? He just got there a different way.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, you know what I
Okay.
mean? Like he got
Yeah,
there
that's
by
fair.
seeing the world end and seeing Thanos kill him and seeing his mom get killed because of his mistake and then seeing other variants who live longer or who made bigger mistakes than he did. And it
Yeah.
never worked out for any of them. So he's like, why am I going to keep trying to do all this BS? Like I know there's a bigger bad out there than me. and this bigger bad can. He's already said he can defeat Thanos. So
Yeah.
why would I try to overstep him? I can't even get to this guy. I can't pull the old crap I used to pull.
I agree with you. And again, like I was saying before, is I really like this. I'm just trying to be objective with the situation we're at, looking
No,
at it objectively.
no,
Yeah.
I like it too. To be fair,
Yeah.
because I'm like, why do I think this? Like, why do I
Right.
think this Loki is equivalent to that, or does it really make sense? The Avengers Loki we saw and this guy, but to me, it does.
Okay.
If I saw if I saw how my life would turn out and all these decisions, right? And I'm watching it, I'm like, oh yeah, I definitely would have done that. I definitely would have done it. But each time I fail, each time, somebody I love dies, or, I die, or I just keep royally screwing up, I'd be like, crap, maybe I should try to do it different. At least for me.
Yeah.
Some people are like, you got to just try it, see what happens.
Right. Right.
But like, if you tell me don't touch the hot stove because you get burned, like I'm the kind of person that's like, yeah, don't touch the stove. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
I'm just trying to think of the listeners because I know we've got a lot of listeners from every walk of life, and I know that there's some out there that are thinking like, "Man, I wish Loki was still being Loki." I get that. Like
Yeah.
with that scene with the shadows, I was just like, "Yeah, baby," that was
And the
awesome.
horns that come out of the shadow showing
Oh,
that.
I just put a post on like when we're going to see that crown again, and then there it is.
Yeah.
I was
But it's like,
"Thank you,
I mean,
Jesus."
that was the embody of like, old Loki's still in there.
Yeah.
He hasn't been allowed to come out in season one because they nerfed him on purpose because of the TVA world, because or whatever dimension, and yeah, he found a power greater than him, and he was always under the finger of somebody. This
Yeah.
is the first time where he doesn't have anybody on top of him saying, you can't do this, you can't do that. They're like, no, we got to go out and get X5. You could do whatever you need to go get him. And he's like, oh, okay. Cracks his knuckles, horns come out, 3 Lokis, and, Mobius is talking to the middle one. Turns out he's the left one. Like,
Yeah.
it's, you know what I mean?
It's so cool.
It's great. So he's still in there. It's
Yeah.
just being channeled in this direction. And I dig that. I really do. I like that
I
a
would
lot.
like so the show's done a really good job. I would love to see one of two things happen at the end of this to like just totally make everybody happy. Is either Thor shows up for one reason or another. We've had rumors. Thor shows up and Thor's like, you're not my brother. I think that like if it says our Thor, I'm basically what I'm saying, like the Ragnarok Thor.
Right,
You're not
yeah.
my brother, but you're what he could have been. Like if he says a line like that, like oh my god, that's beautiful.
Sealed. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's gonna be the
perfect.
cherry on top where it's like, okay, the Thor that we know acknowledges this Loki.
That
Like,
would be so great.
100%.
You remind me of our mother. Oh, fuck.
Dude, yes.
Marvel, Kevin, get on the phone quick.
But for real, that would be enough for me to
that'd
be like,
perfect.
yeah, and I and not to say anything, because everybody's fine to have their own opinion.
Of course.
But like, I think that would kind of quell some of the haters, because I'm like, look at
That's what
Thor
I'm saying.
even thinks this is
Yeah.
Loki, right?
And then also, real quick, the other thing that will quell the haters is they get to Kang and they're like, okay, boom, we defeated him. And then at the last moment, Loki's like, yeah, and I'll take that ability. And all of a sudden, like, becomes the new villain. And all of a sudden, the TVA versus Loki. How cool would that also be? It would be fully like Loki falling back into it, like this whole thing was just like, I just got to get to the end of this because I know there's a bigger bad. And I know that I can't, like he's tricking his way up the whole time. Like, that would be also cool.
Absolutely. Okay, so I want to Tarantino this basically,
Yes.
because I still think there's a lot of details we got to hit from this episode.
I know.
But at the end, kind of on the same train that you were just on, at the end when Sylvie pops through the portal and she follows Loki, I was like, wow, oh yes, oh she cares, right? But then there was a split second for me where it was like, oh, she's gonna take over the TVA.
Yeah.
And that's or her and Loki are going to take over the TVA. That's instantly where my mind went to. Did you have that thought, or are you like, I can explain to you where I got that thought from too.
Tell me where you got that thought then. I want to hear that. Because no, I didn't think that. But there was something that happened at the very end. I was like, oh, Sylvie's above all this shit. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, because okay, so when she was saying this is broken, this is the TVA is rotten.
Yeah.
There was that point of like, yeah, the TVA totally robbed her of her life, but it also robbed the Loki that we know. And who better to kind of take over the system, change it around, to put it in the right direction than somebody who's been a victim of how the system used to operate. Yeah. And so, and she's powerful as can be. She they let her walk into the place knowing that she kind of doomed all these different timelines into
Hmm.
the TVA, and nobody was like, "Hey, should we go arrest her?" She was just like, "Peace, I'm out." And then like
Yeah.
just went, which was so crazy. So I think for those reasons, I don't know, just the fact that she's hated it, has been scorned by it, and has still come back and decided to help it, realizing through McDonald's that life's worth saving. Like
How much
she's
did
the right
McDonald's pay for
person.
this episode? I
Dude,
swear to
how much did
God.
Marvel pay to have McDonald's?
Yeah,
Like,
right. Yeah. It's
yeah,
so
I mean,
funny how much
because
it's prominent.
oh my god, and man, after this, I was like, yep, double cheeseburger, large fries, large Coke, McFlurry, let's go.
Ooh,
I
yeah,
wanted it
McFlurry.
so bad. I'm not gonna
Mhm.
lie. Did you? How did you?
Oh man, yeah. I was like, some a cheeseburger right now sounds so good. Those fries, cut it out. Yeah.
Oh my god, those are my favorite. I know everybody could talk about their favorite fast food fries. By far, McDonald's for me is
No joke.
always.
Yeah.
They
In
always
and
hit
Out
so
Burger
well.
with McDonald's fries, you got yourself a perfect fast food meal right
Oh
there.
yes, that's the multiverse I want to live in.
There it is. But at the end, we saw Sylvie sitting. She went back to her world. She said a couple times, like, if it's still there. But she went back to her world and she's talking to that guy and he goes off. She's toying with something. Do you notice that? They had like TVA tech. I think she
Yeah.
protected her world. I think she knows how to
Hmm.
protect a branch from being pruned.
Ooh, interesting. To me, it looked like there was this circular thing
Hmm.
that He Who Remains had when they got to his final space,
Oh,
and it was like
okay.
this circular thing. It had gold in it, and he was using it to kind of demonstrate what happened in the different universes when they were fighting each other. It
Nice.
looked a lot like that to me,
Okay.
but I mean, maybe she does know how to protect it. Let's go back to the introduction of Loki meeting Sylvie though,
Yeah.
because I think that was like it was very powerful. It was like kind of unexpected. I was like, I knew they were gonna
Yeah.
eventually meet, and what again better place than McDonald's in this time period of life where it's like she's finding her innocence. He walks in there. There's like that literally like the breath gets sucked out or the air gets sucked out of the room, and they lock eyes, and it's
Yeah.
not just like lovey-dovey right off the bat.
No.
It's kind of contentious. Yeah, I don't know. What do you think about that scene?
My favorite part was the meta aspect of it, where we had Hunter X5 and Mobius kind of talking about, like, it's weird, right? Like
Yeah,
their
yeah, yeah,
conversation
I
of
know.
like I was like, exactly, because that was my opinion the entire time has always been like, I'm down for these two people to get together, but I mean, it's two Lokis. Like, I still have a hard time with that sometimes, and I love how X5 is like, what's the deal with this? What are we supposed to like? Are we endorsing this? What's going on?
Right, 100%. Because I think they did the joke. It was like, opposites attract, and he's
Yeah.
like, but how did they? Like, they're not opposites. They're like
Well, he
the
even said the
same.
way he says it's like they say opposites attract, but like he was saying like
Oh,
it's
okay,
not
okay.
that
I
case.
heard,
Yeah.
I heard like opposites attract, and I was like, yeah, but how did
In no
like they're
way.
not even opposite? Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh man.
yeah. That whole relationship still super confusing to me. Like, I'm just along for the ride at this point.
Right.
I don't know,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
in my mind they have the same DNA because they have the same dad and same mom. The
Yeah.
only difference is like she was born a girl, he was born a guy.
Yeah.
That's literally the only thing. But I don't know.
It's
But
just so fun. I love that when they could poke fun. I have a feeling that a lot of Marvel people are watching Twitter and Instagram and are like, hey, let's address this real quick and let's just have fun with it. I am so down when they do that because then it's, canonizes something and you shuts the haters up, and also it's just kind of fun to poke fun at yourself sometimes. So I think it's
oh
really
my
well
god,
done.
one of my favorite lines ever from any MCU movie was in Age of Ultron, where Cap flips the bike. He goes language, and Tony goes, "Did Cap just say language?"
Yeah.
Like, are we gonna address it? And it's yeah,
Yeah.
it's just that addressing how weird or crazy or offbeat something is for me. Oh, that gets me every time. I love
Yeah.
that.
I'm a
I
sucker
love it.
for it. But yeah, it was a good meeting. I think they did a good job with it, and I think it showed that Sylvie's on a different path. With that part at the end, though, it shows us that she's got a bigger plan. No, not a bigger plan, but maybe like she has control more than we know, and I look
Yeah,
forward to exploring that.
totally. Like she has some tricks up her sleeve. It feels like.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Like I
I
don't
got
know
a
if she
mischief.
because yeah, I don't know if she has a bigger plan, but she's like, if anything goes wrong, like I have an idea
That's
of
a better put
what
it.
I need
Yeah.
to do to fix it, right? Because
Right.
like, man, I truly feel like she wants to be in this this small town and just live casually. I mean, someone brought it up on another podcast. She's been living from apocalypse to apocalypse, from world-ending event to world-ending
Yeah.
event. And like she grew up like that. We saw her as a little kid, and like she's now however old she is, and that's a long time to be running and living in this disaster. So yeah, maybe working at McDonald's and just like driving her old Ford and laying on the hood and look at the stars is like what she wants the most in the world.
Yeah. Stability.
Hmm.
Okay, and then also let's move forward to Obi in this episode because Obi
He's
realizes,
back.
yeah, first off, yeah, what a boy. Talk about somebody who's blowing up on the social medias.
Dude, I'm so happy he wasn't on one episode and done.
I know. Yeah, oh boy.
Like
Yeah,
I was so
that's a
afraid they were
smart
gonna
move.
just show him in the pilot episode, which we know that the MCU doesn't call it pilot episodes because they don't make those.
We'll talk
But
about that too.
anyways, that's for Marvel News after. But I
Yeah.
was so scared he would only be in the pilot episode and then the end episode, and I'm like, oh, Obi's back! Like
Yeah.
yes, oh yeah, oh my god, what a treasure, man! That you know how some people were like over the moon about Madeline.
Yeah.
With two N's and a Y, but it's not where you think. Like,
Yeah,
people
yeah.
are over the moon about her. Like,
Yeah.
that's how I feel about Obi. I'm just like,
And what I
this-
love about Obi is to me, because the Ouroboros we know is something that's like a continuous, blah 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 blah. But also like we know he's been around for a long time. We found out today he wrote the book on the TVA basically. So I'm like, I think maybe he doesn't remember, but I'm pretty sure that Kang went to him and like, I need to start something. Can you help me? And I think he's the first guy to start the TVA. And I went back to this last time, but I think he's kind of like the key master from Matrix. Um, and so I can't wait for him to be in more Marvel stuff now. I think after the internet blew up over him too, we're going to be watching an Avengers Secret Wars, and here comes Obi to be like, guys, I have the solution. This is what we have to do. And he'd be like the like the, what is it, from 007, the Q
the
that has
Q.
like the thing that solves the problem. Like, how perfect would that be for him?
I mean, you just added so much hype in my brain right now. I don't even know where to layer it. Okay, I'm like, okay, I'm literally thinking about it in a Big Mac terms. I'm like, okay, put the bun down, all right, then the secret sauce, then the patty. No, seriously though, because I was like, okay, we don't have Tony Stark, we have Riri who's figuring it out, we have Shuri,
Right.
but like for tech beyond normal human stuff, who do we have that can build it? Like Tony Stark is the one
Rocket
that
was
used,
kind of that person, but Rocket's more about making shit explode, not, and even
exactly.
beyond that, he doesn't know beyond that. Yeah.
Exactly. Like he's not figuring out portals. He's not figuring out time travel. Like we got Obi. He knows time travel.
Yeah.
And then he can make this crazy punk rock kind of tech that the Avengers could use to battle Kang. So like, how do you stop Kang in every timeline? Well, Obi can figure it out. Oh shit. Oh shit. That'd be so cool.
That's gonna be so dope.
Yeah. So I
Him
just
and
love
Peter
it.
Parker together, how cool is that? The dialogue between him and Peter Parker. Cannot wait for that.
Incredible. Yeah, it would be so great. I mean, I think him with anybody. Him with Shuri would be great. Him with Riri would be great. Peter Parker is a absolute. Him with Doctor Strange, 100%. But the other part you said was him being one of the first people and then Kang. I completely agree with you. I almost think that they built the TVA up from him. That's why he's on the
Yes.
bottom floor. Like exactly, like he built everything. It all went up, and Kang started working off of things he was inventing or the way he could understand time travel. Maybe Kang brought him from the 31st century back. I don't know, but
Is he a
yeah,
variant?
I don't know if I want to. Yeah, I don't know. I was thinking about that too. I don't know if they'll go that route because I think you want to keep Obi. He could be a variant. I mean, we've seen Loki have a bunch of different races and ages as far as his variant, so it could be possible. I don't know if you go that route because I think you want to divorce the character as right now everybody loves him. So I think you keep him as something everybody loves, and maybe he has like they almost do like a retcon backstory, and he's more tied to somebody more popular from the comics, and he's a variant of them.
I have a feeling that he's not a variant at all. Boy, wouldn't it be cool if he was like a Galactus spawn or something.
Yeah.
I don't think he's a variant of anything because I think variants are like the variants of the TVA are tools of the TVA. So I think he's somebody who would have put that process into place.
Yeah, what if he's literally pulled from the sacred timeline? Like he's like one of the only people that doesn't have a variant because they're not in the main timeline.
Yeah, I would like to find. He already botched this. Nexus characters are really cool, and Marvel didn't do them justice, I think, in my opinion.
Yeah, like
The comics are way
WandaVision,
cooler. Yeah.
absolutely. Like Wanda, and fantastic character in WandaVision. I think her character got a little butchered in Multiverse of Madness,
Yeah.
but she is a Nexus character, right? Like she's
Yeah.
the same in every universe. Like it's just her, and
Mhm.
that's such a cool idea for sure. So
Yeah.
if they could, there's still time, and there's a lot
Oh, of
of
course.
opportunity that they can do with Secret Wars coming up and King Dynasty. They could solve all of these things, and I believe that they can right this ship because seeing what Guardians of the Galaxy did, I know it's James Gunn and he's gone, but anyways, there still was a lot of Marvel people that were attached to that project.
Yeah.
Seeing what they're doing with Loki, oh my God, is it? This is Marvel again, and
Mhm.
there's been a lot of things I've liked, but there's not. There hasn't been a lot of things I've loved, and this I'm actually loving. And we've already talked about.
Yes.
There's some things that it's a little messy, it's a little clunky, it's a little like, oh, I
Oh,
don't know if it's staying together,
so
but
well said.
but
Yeah.
it but the ingredients together are beautiful and they're just so perfect. And when you take a bite of that cake, it's just amazing. So I think
Yeah.
I don't know. I have so much hope again in it, and I think that this show is one of those reasons.
It dawned on me when you said that, like, yeah, when you love somebody that's got flaws, like I love this for some reason, and I could recognize the flaws and see where other people might see the flaws, but I
For
just
sure.
love it, and so
Yeah.
that's yeah, I get it, dude. Yeah, that's a
So,
really really good way to put it. Yeah, I like that.
yeah. Sorry, that was me for the Ahsoka finale. Sorry, hot take. I loved it. I loved
If
it
there's a
for
single
sure.
person who doesn't like the Ahsoka finale, I'm gonna give you my address. You can come fight me. That shit was
Yeah, yeah.
amazing.
I know there is. Yeah, yeah. We don't have to go down that path, but
Freaking
yeah, I there
cares.
were so many for me flaws in or like questions unanswered, but yet perfect ending. So good,
It's so
so good.
fine to have flaws as long as they're eventually addressed. You know, like flaws are flaws, but you can
Right,
address them, or it can make sense in the long. Yeah, people are haters for no
right,
reason.
right. And I think this show is doing that, which we already
Yes.
mentioned. Yeah, but so many fun theories with Obi. I'm so happy they're keeping him in the loop,
Yeah.
and just the dialogue between Obi and Mobius and Loki is just every time it gets a laugh out of me because it's so like matter of fact, like short things. Is like, oh yeah, I can work on that. Do you want me to do that over fixing the temporal loom so that all of time doesn't fall apart? Like, is that a
Yeah.
more higher priority?
I
And they're
loved
like,
it.
no, that's not. You're like, okay, but he's like, I can do that, and
I
he's dead serious about it. It's
I
great.
can't remember the name of the character, but the actor is Eugene Cordero. Um, I love when he's like, "Wait, you're Orbis? Can you sign
Oh,
this?" And he's like,
Casey.
"Yeah," and he's like, "Oh, I'd love to
Yeah.
be signed." Like, I just love that it's like a geek finding a geek and be like, it's so to me that reeked of Comic Cons. Like whenever
Yeah,
I'm at a
yeah, yeah,
convention, I'm freaking out
100%.
over somebody that like my parents wouldn't even know who they are, and I'm like, "You don't know? He drew this comic." You
For
know?
sure, for sure. Yeah, he had a humble brag, really just a normal brag, I guess. Tom Taylor was what DC writer was
No
walking down with the
freaking joke.
aisles,
He's
and
awesome.
I was like, oh my god, it's Tom Taylor, and I was like, oh, I was like, okay, like don't freak out, like you don't, ask him for an interview. So I did just that. I was like, hey man, can I get an interview? He's like, no, like I'm sorry, I got to go to this thing. I was like, okay, can I just take a picture with you? And he's like, yeah, and I got a great picture of him. Like, that was Tom Taylor. That was
Yeah,
sick, But yeah, 100%. If I showed my sisters or my mom, they're like, "Who's this dude?"
yeah.
Like, I don't, but I was stoked on it.
Couple BlizzCons ago, I'm at this is Evertel and Taliesin, and they're
Yeah.
YouTubers that do World of Warcraft stuff, and I'm like,
Oh.
Daniel, I have got to meet them because you can meet them if you waited in line. And I
Mhm.
sat there for like maybe an hour and a half, and he's like, I've checked out everything while you've been doing this, man. Why? What's the big deal about these guys? He happened to not watch them, and I'm just like, no, man, it's so great. And then when I got them, like, you got to take a picture of me with them, and I started telling him about the podcast, and he's like, that was so cringy. Like, I don't care. I had to share that. They were all excited. I was like, oh man,
Yeah.
it was just like the coolest damn thing.
Exactly. So yes, that interaction. Yeah, we're gonna. Sorry for everybody listening. We're gonna try not to be cringy in the future. But yes, that interaction was so genuine, and you and me have both felt that way.
Yes.
Like starstruck around people, and yeah, it was just so great. And it's just crazy to me the fact that people, maybe I don't know how many floors up. Let's just say 30 floors up,
Mhm.
don't know he's down there.
Yeah.
Like, but they're sending things to him and they're getting it fixed. Like, who do they think is
Who's
fixing this
sending
stuff?
things to him though? That's the question.
Yeah, I don't
Maybe
know.
he's. I think that there's up higher floors even than we're knowing about.
Sure. Oh,
You know what I'm
definitely.
saying?
Because I didn't
Because the
even
T
know
is
about
huge.
the generals in the first episode, and then
Right.
there's judges and or the judges. Like that whole thing is interesting. We get to see Docs too at the end, and she's like, "No, we're carrying out the mission. She's just going and taking matters into her own hand. Our job is to prune branching timelines," and she's just like,
And
"Let's
she's
do it."
I love
That
how
was
much she's right. Like in a lot of ways. In every possible reason the TVA exists, she freaking just nailed it. Way to go, Docs. Here's your parade.
true, but you're right in the fact that it's like kind of a cult because she doesn't really know
Yes,
why she's
exactly.
doing it. She just knows she's supposed to.
It's
It's
just
like
funny
a
that it's yeah,
Yeah, yeah. It's
yeah.
just like a bee mentality, you know? Like,
Right.
we're gonna go collect honey. I gotta sting this guy. I don't care if I, this
Die
is,
afterwards.
yeah, if I die afterwards. I was gonna say something else that I found out, another fact from Theo Vaughn, but I'll
Oh
try to
god.
keep it more PG than
Okay.
that.
We'll go with the death of bees then.
Look it
Did
up.
you
It's crazier than you think.
Oh god. Did you look up or did you see the theories that Docs might be a Sylvia from another time?
Sylvie from a Sylvie variant?
Yeah, from the future. Yeah.
Oh. Oh. I don't know. What's the evidence towards that?
Well, there's been a few things where they're like, oh, the actors are from the same region or whatever and stuff like that. Like the voice is close enough to like that would make sense. And then the idea is that like in the future, Sylvie realizes that no, we need the prime timeline. It's super important, and so she's back here. And then Hunter X5 is somebody that Sylvie knows basically coming up is like, oh, he's loyal and he wants to be an actor, so it doesn't fucking matter. We'll use him for a lot of things. And so she's been actually grooming him since the beginning because she knows that eventually he'll be useful, that kind of thing.
Wow. Okay, that's cool. I definitely didn't think about it that way. Like they kind of there's not much interaction with Docs in this episode other than like them battling her
Yeah.
agents and then just like quickly arresting her. I wonder if we get more of a conversation with her because if we do and some of those lines from her kind of lead towards that, I'll buy
Yes.
into that. I'll dig
It's
that.
one of those Reddit theories, and so I'm really looking forward
Totally a
to.
Reddit
Yeah, of
theory.
course. I would like to see Sylvie and her just have a conversation, because
Yeah.
then we pay attention because she's a very good actor, and so if we see Docs have a reaction that's questionable, then we're like, all right, then she's talking to her
Yeah.
former self, type of thing.
I would dig that. I would dig that. I want to know how we get back to the Victor Timely and the king of it all.
I'm surprised we haven't gotten back to that. Actually, I kind of thought we were going to get in that in this episode,
Me
especially since
too.
they're so desperate for Miss Minutes, and we know Miss Minutes is with Victor Timely as well.
Ooh, that's a good
Yeah,
one. Like Miss Minutes being kind of a villain or like a rogue agent is so interesting to me.
yeah,
That she's
it,
this like goofy cartoon. Shout out to Tara Strong because she's the
yeah,
shit. Like Tara Strong is like one of the best voice actors of our generation, and
for
I
sure.
love that they're making Miss Minutes a bigger character. But
Yeah.
that's a crazy thing, right? Like that she's kind of an important, like a very important thing to the story.
Yeah, you could tell like what Obi was saying is basically we have to get Miss Minutes back, or we need the guy. I can't ever remember the fucking name. He who
He
remains.
who
So
remains. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so they're gonna have to go for Miss Minutes or a Kang variant. I wonder if that's gonna be a thing where they have to capture a Kang variant. But I have a feeling they're just gonna go get Miss Minutes, and we know that there's a Miss Minutes with Victor Timely. So I don't know if it's her necessarily, which I would assume it could be.
Yeah.
And maybe she's I don't know what the plan is, but I think it would be cool if it's a different version of Miss Minutes, maybe one that's more like I don't know, steampunky like he is. Yeah.
Steampunk. That's the word I was looking for earlier. Thank
Yeah.
you so much. So there is also another like Reddit theory that the Kang that we saw in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania that got knocked into the fuel cell is actually Victor Timely. And
Interesting.
I've listened to the evidence for it, and I'm kind of buying into it. I'm not saying like I believe it 100%, but if it turns out to be true, I'm like, okay, cool. Like
Yeah.
because of the comic basis, which was when Kang was like so far in the future, he had his own version of like the TVA in like this time place. The Avengers beat him. He then goes up in his spaceship and like teleports back to the past where he then becomes Victor Timely. Well,
Mhm.
if you replace the Avengers with the Ant-Man family and him getting beat and then having to
Yeah.
go back to the past, I buy it. And there's also something when you look at that electrical device behind him when he's showing it off. If
Mhm.
you look at it side by side of the against the temporal loom, they look exactly the same.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I was like, "Oh shit, maybe that's true." So then I paused it. I did my own research after that because I got way too much free time, and I looked and I was like, "The temporal loom does look like that thing
That's
that he's
cool.
displaying."
Yeah.
So maybe, man, I don't
I
know.
like I like to just kind of like make a lot of headcanon. So what if he went back in time knowing that like this pesky Avengers, all I'll know what I'll do is I'll go back and I'll take care of Howard Stark and start replacing him in the timeline. And
Yeah,
so because if there was no Tony Stark, there's no Avengers, then there's no Ant-Man, then there's no fucking him up.
exactly. Yeah,
So
or like King of the Comics literally just did it because he was like, I'm gonna get so far ahead of the Avengers.
yeah,
I'm gonna plan for everything that they could beat me at, and then by the time I'm, they're around,
yeah.
I'm already at this level, and I got my money, I got my tech companies, I got my military behind me, I got all this stuff, right?
That's
And
what makes him such a cool villain. And guys,
yeah,
by the way, if you're loving this, Flash season one, you got to watch Flash season one. I don't want to spoil too much, but Reverse Flash, and it's the same exact thing, right? That's what Reverse Flash whole gig is
yeah.
doing this timey wimey stuff, and that's why I freaking love him. So yeah, so check that out
Yeah,
too.
Flash season one, and I think season two for the most part pretty good.
Yeah, season
After
two is
that,
when the shoe drops, and you're like, wait, what? Yeah,
yeah, after that, we're literally in a Mobius strip or like an Aurora, a Boris, where it feels like the same story over and over again.
yeah,
You're like, it ends and then like the same thing just starts up
yeah.
again.
Something
Like,
from
what
the
the
future.
heck?
We have to stop. We'll need the Force. Yeah,
Yeah, there's a
we'll need
guy
Speed
faster
Force.
than me. How do I run
Yeah.
faster than him? Or what?
If I'm being honest, though, that's like 80% of Flash comics, unless he's like doing something so crazy that the Justice League doesn't need him, or he doesn't
Right.
need the Justice League, basically.
Yeah.
Now that we're done talking about the Flash, let's get back to Loki.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to mention before we move on to like or the Marvel studio and as a whole?
No, I think we touched on a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. I'm enjoying again. Everything is done so well. I think the interrogation scene was top notch. Um, I think there are a lot of things people want answers for, and things that they may not need answers for. But I think it would behoove Marvel in general, and I think season three would definitely will, to start answering some questions that just the fans have. Yeah,
Yeah. Okay, so you mentioned season three. I kind of have a hot take.
fire away.
Okay, I think if they do a season three after this, that should be the last season. And then the next time we see Loki or any of these characters should be in a movie.
Well, it's yeah. Okay, so I think we'll get Loki as a big part of what's the next?
King Dynasty,
Is it King Dynasty? No, there's another movie that they already talking about like the TVA is a character in it.
Deadpool.
Deadpool.
Yeah.
There it is. So
Hmm.
I would like to see Loki be a vital part of Deadpool, and then I would like for there to continue being a show about the TVA, but like called TVA, that's more of a crazy situation, like the X Files, like where they're running into
That'd be
some crazy
great.
stuff every week. Like, oh hey, there's this guy. Gosh dang it, DC's got it too. It's in the Arrowverse, and I love that show as well. I can't remember it though. But like, oh yeah, for some reason there's a dinosaur in the middle of Manhattan. Let's go figure out why that happened. And then it's like some random villain from deep in the Marvel comic books they got to take care of. Like that
Yeah.
would be so
That'd be
great.
sweet.
Yeah.
That'd be such a great way to bring in other characters. Like She-Hulk almost did this, but then I mean, in my opinion, kind of dropped the ball. Like they had these really cool characters and they were obscure and they had mutants in
Yeah.
there and stuff, but it just like all they got to do was sit around in a group circle and talk about, their issues and stuff, which, you got to do as a human, but I don't want to see my heroes necessarily do that for a whole episode. I want to see
What
them.
a shame that they had to
Yeah, yeah.
waste. Yeah, they just
Yeah.
needed the names. Like, why are you going to the encyclopedia for that though?